Welcome, guys, back to the Grateful Living podcast. Today, I'm thankful to have Gabriel Orama with me today. Gabe works as a global marketing manager for a big life sciences corporation and also recently completed his MBA. Before we get, started, I just want to say, I don't know how I'll brand this, whether it'll be a regular Grateful Living episode or if it will theoretically be, which is what I'm thinking, part of a series I call something to the effect of how I improved my mental health, um, and then have the name of the guest that I have. Um, if I do it the second way, I just want it on the record. I want to give credit to Gabe for helping with the idea. I think a week ago or so,
About
I
a week.
put up
Yeah.
on my Facebook story that I was struggling to come up with vlog ideas, and he suggested the idea of talking about how therapy or mental health treatments have helped people. So if I end up doing it that way, Gabe, thank you so much. And
My pleasure.
and if I do end up doing it that way, if you or you know someone that has received treatment and gotten better and would be open to having that conversation, obviously, please feel free to reach out to me.
You can count
Uh,
on that. Definitely.
so getting that announcement out of the way, Gabe, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, happy to be with you.
Awesome. So, I guess, for the people that don't know you, why don't you set the scene a little bit? Take us back to the beginning, where you grew up, your family situation, what type of kid you were, things like
So
that.
I grew up in Puerto Rico. I'm 33, so I lived for 27 years in the island. Uh, Grew up speaking Spanish and English. But I like Puerto Rico's like like it's the tropics. It's there's a lot of dancing, a lot of that stuff. But I was always super shy with all of it. So it was funny, but to me, I always felt like, how is everyone happy and dancing and all that all the time? So obviously, when you're little, you're just scared. You don't associate it with anything. So it all started like that, and through elementary and high school, I was very nervous. I barely spoke. I had a couple of friends, but I was mostly a quiet kid. Um, and my mother helped me with like my assignments and stuff because honestly, I was not good at it. Um, and from like 10th grade and on, like, high school got a little better and all that, but overall I always felt different. I always felt that I always felt dumb and ugly and all that. I was like, I'm clearly like I'm supposed to be in some other group or something. um and I went to I went to school. I did a bachelor's degree in business, barely making it because if you look at my transcripts from that time, it's like C C C C C and those C's were with me just like trying as hard as possible. Like
Yeah.
this was me literally staying up and doing all this stuff that usually you see people with A's getting. I was just doing it to get like a 71. Just give me over that C. So I did that, and the goal was always, I wouldn't say the goal, but um, law is big in my dad's side of the family, so I was always like exposed to that, um, and I wanted to go to law school, and I took the tests 3 times. Two of those times I actually got like tutoring, and I never got over 131, which is a terrible score. I think like when you take like a medium or something, it's like 150 is like it's like the average of people going into school. So I was way behind that.
Yeah.
After that, I've always been creative. I wrote short stories when I was in elementary school, and watched a lot of movies and tried to like draw and all that. So I got into a postgraduate uh, program for journalism, and uh, and that was pretty good because it helped me, take the creativity and kind of like put it into like a professional way. And and after that, I worked at a couple of agencies, and then I finished as like an advisor to a politician at the time in digital communications. It was a very interesting job, but it was not for me. And actually, that's when I made the decision that I wanted to explore what was out at the island. I had never left the island for over 10 days before that.
Wow.
So I applied to like 500 jobs. One company said yes, and I'm still here, 6 years on. Third
Awesome.
position though,
Yeah.
and I think, and it was 2 years ago. I decided to go back to school to get my MBA, and at first I was barely making it. But when I say barely making it, I mean I was. It was like I felt like I was trying so hard to just get by again in my 30s. So that's when I decided like there's like I should just get some help. Like why is it so hard for me to just pay attention? Honestly, like I was pissed at myself, and I started going to therapy twice a month, and just talking, um, just letting some frustrations out and all that, and through the therapist and my PCP, they said, "Hey, you clearly have some concentration problems. Why don't we get you in a we make an assessment?" And indeed, I had like super ADHD, and I recently got medicated. And I have to say, like, between therapy and medication, not just for concentration, but for depression too, because this is a whole. I don't want to say the word cocktail because it always sounds bad, but
Yeah.
it's a recipe. You don't just work one aspect, you have to work a couple, and that's the key to starting to like get your life. I wouldn't say on track, because I wasn't doing bad. I was just not reaching where I wanted to get. And once you start seeing things a little bit more clearly, like not only your work performance gets better, but or your school performance, but your relationships get better or clearer. Like you see the people that you maybe looked at in a weird way, and you're like, wait a second, why was I always scared of this guy or pissed at this guy? This guy hasn't done anything to me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's a good guy. And then sometimes the opposite. Sometimes you have friends that are like, oh my God, this guy really didn't care about me,
Yeah.
even when I was like in my worst moments. So yeah, like it makes things clearer. Sorry, I've talked a lot. Now ask me a question, man.
No, no, no. That was really good introduction. I think one of the interesting things that you said is you started therapy at 32. I'm curious. That's obviously a decision that most people don't take that decision, right? That's like, if you're on your couch and should I go to the gym or not, right? It's the heart, like, but once you go to therapy, it's almost like you're already at the gym. Let's just
It's like you started
get on.
sweating already. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just get on the treadmill or whatever. What how did you get over that hump? What was the incentive? What made you go despite the stigma associated with it? I think this might be
a
helpful for me.
bunch of a bunch of Google searches, first of all, because I would type, when you type symptoms into WebMD, although no one should do that because everyone will, you know. But I read a lot of blogs, and also the ecosystem is better now in the sense that therapy is more accepted. So every now and then you'll see maybe a guy or a friend or a celebrity which you always saw as this solid person saying, hey, I'm starting to go to therapy because I have these issues, and you're like, wait a second, I thought this guy's life was perfect. And so those are a couple of the uh the seeds that were placed on me. And yeah, like I did it came from me, and also like the fact that it was the 2010s, that it was a little bit more accepted. And yeah, I just that's how I made the decision. I'm sorry if I confused you, man.
No, no, no. I mean, did you have a breaking point, or you just it was
Oh
it?
yeah, there was a breaking point. It was I felt overworked at one point, overworked, and in a way that I started every you look at everyone at work and you associate them with you being overworked, and it's like, why am I so mad right now? I don't want to be like this. And then when you get home, you're alone and you start feeling sad. And so it was like, I just don't want this anymore. I want to fix this. And that's how I started going to therapy. And it's been great.
How was your first initial times at therapy? Did you have you changed, or have you stayed with the same
I
person?
have the first times I say that I think the first, you just at first you see it as like meeting up with a new friend, and you're just giving them a live story. Um, and as you give that live story, suddenly it's like you start answering your own questions, but through the therapist, because it's like you're like, him. I just have this fear of authority, which is something that I used to have a lot. And I did have, and eventually, like as I was talking and got to, hey, I had very strict parents, that were old school. And it's like, wait a second, oh, I can see some connection there. So it's suddenly like a wow kind of moment. Oh my god, I always thought that had stayed in the past, but it actually is something that literally affects me every single day. And you through therapy, you start talking about it and discussing it deeper and deeper until you can finally at least accept that that happened, and it's in the past. The people who maybe were involved were not trying to do anything bad. They were just trying to be uh, pro discipline, let's call it that. And you make peace. You make peace, and I think that's one of the best things that therapy has brought me. Peace, man, mental peace. I can sleep at night.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The 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 second part, having the ADHD, um, I'm curious, as you look back, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but it's probably safe to say you probably had it, in your teens,
In my
you know
teens, I think in my yeah, before that even, because
Yeah.
there are I couldn't get things. I just didn't get them. I was like, how this doesn't like how I and you know when you play video games with your friends when you're little, you see them excelling, and you're like, what is this? I'm doing exactly the same. We have the same brain. What is this? And it starts there, and eventually, if it's not treated, or at least control, it's not. I mean, you treat it, but it like at least put it under control. Then it's as you grow up, it starts affecting other aspects of your life. Um and let's put this out there. The fact that I have ADHD doesn't mean that everyone has to have pity on me. So, and that is something that sometimes when we are so depressed or have ADHD, we're so concentrated on ourselves. You think, oh my god, but I am sick. Why don't you accept me? And it's like, yeah, yeah, like, but you're supposed to work on that yourself. The reality is that it has to start from you. Like, if you're noticing a pattern of in your life of people calling out several things, ask yourself, don't be so, just ask yourself, maybe these people actually have like are observing something that I'm not. And when you go to therapy and when you start treatment, all those things start getting a little clearer. And one of the things I've done has been telling people, "Hey, dude, 5 years ago I was kind of an a-hole to you. I was not in a good place. I was sick, and I want you to know that I'm sorry for that." And it feels good, and the people appreciate it. They really
Yeah.
are like,
Wow.
"Oh my God,
That's
man, yeah,
very
it was all.
awesome.
I've always thought you were always so cranky all the time, stuff like that." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I guess, for maybe a parent watching or even an adult that's maybe not even aware that they might have it. For you, were there any, like, as you look back in hindsight, were there telltale signs where you should have been like, this is a point where maybe I should have gotten an evaluation
Oh yeah,
on.
probably in I think eighth grade should have been like the point in which it was like, okay, this guy, this kid, he's clearly not dumb, but he has a like he's taking like longer to get things.
Mhm.
So probably, because I remember eighth grade was the first time I had to take summer school. I remember um, summer school for like English class. That if you think about it, it's like that's like the most. I mean, no, every subject is different, but right. And honestly, yeah, I was born in I lived in Puerto Rico, so English is my second language. But I remember being like, how did I get here? I was so good at this, in elementary when my
Yeah.
mother was helping me study. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, I think at that age, if I would have gotten like treatment, it would things would have probably gone smoother. We can say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. This is a really tough question, but you know, how would you change if you could decide or design the education system,
I think
for kids that deal with ADHD in terms of, I don't know, like teaching them or study skills? How would you change the system and how
I would
we?
I would I would probably get rid of many of these standardized tests. To be honest, I think it's a big mistake to put everyone into some mold, and if they don't get you know X score, they do not qualify to be successful in life. You know, I think that's one of the things that has to be addressed intensely. And also, look, a lot of us, and assuming a world in which standardized testing continues, I think people who are diagnosed with some type of learning disability should should be given other means to show their talents. Like, look, I've always been bad at math, but I've always been a very good creative writer. So, you know, and it doesn't mean that I am going to write, you know, Star Wars Episode 10 to get into law school, but it could say, hey, let's post this situation, think about how you would address this problem and describe it in two in 2 pages or something. You're literally counting on the talents of that person to deliver the message, not giving them four options and to select. I think that would be that would have helped me a lot growing up, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I, obviously now, whenever this gets published, you know, people are now going to know this about you. I'm curious, have you, since you've known you've had ADHD or depression, have you been embarrassed about saying it in public spaces or, I guess, well, that's awesome. I guess for people that might be, do you have any pieces of advice on bringing it up with friends or family or even if you feel comfortable, coworkers?
Yeah, and one of the reasons I like if people ask, I mean, I don't want to, just get like a card and show I have depression and anxiety, so um but if it comes up, I am very open about it, mostly because um depression and ADHD and anxiety, they don't have they don't make your face look like you're sick. It's like it's like drug addiction, you know. Like whenever this war on drugs, they show ads of someone who has the skin all screwed up and stuff. You know what? The majority of drug addicts don't even look like that. They are functioning people who go to work.
Yeah.
That and I like to present myself as like, hey, dude, I I go to therapy even though I'm not sad right now. And I take medication for focus and all that because I had that issue and I wouldn't be successful nowadays if I wouldn't have taken care of that. So I implore people to be like to be like talk to your friends like, man, I feel like I'm depressed. Do you think I should go to therapy? Do that. That's one of the that's one of the easiest things to do. That's one of the jumping off points. Like ask your friends, man, I feel so sad. Do you think there's anything bad in my life right now that could cause me to be this sad? Because if someone says, man, I don't know, you have a good job, you have a girlfriend, an apartment, then you're like, okay, I think I should go see a therapist because I cannot see what's making me sad, but I'm still feeling sad.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, you don't necessarily need to give us details, but you know, when approaching relationships, especially in adulthood, is that something you've, told your partner that, hey, I deal with
Yeah,
ADHD
my
or
my
things of that
partner,
nature?
she is a very open-minded person when it comes to mental health. She's a physician assistant who works at a psychiatric hospital, and before going to school, she had been in the psych space. So at least, where I'm at right now, I'm in a relationship in which mental health is the top priority, if not, or at least one of the top three. Yeah. Before, maybe we could, there could be, before I don't want to get into that, but right now I can tell you, I feel very, I feel happy with having someone who also discusses her own mental health with me. It's a partnership, man.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, Gabe, was there anything? I mean, I guess with the title being, how I've improved my mental health. I mean, is there anything else that you want to say about, the things that you've taken to improve your mental health or
Obviously, there's medication and there's therapy, but like I have to say, once there there are little things that everyone enjoys, and sometimes you don't know that you enjoy it. Like I have to say, ever since I um, I started treating myself, suddenly I am pruning plants around the house. Suddenly I'm like reading about gardening, and I'm brewing beer. Suddenly it's like, and before, like my life was, I go to work or go to school and go home and play video games and have a drink or whatever. Now I look forward to being done with work so I can see how my mint is doing, So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and those are things that I wouldn't be able to appreciate if I hadn't been treated for mental
yeah.
health. Yeah.
I think one other thing you had said off camera, but that was really valuable is it's a continual process. It
Yes.
never ends. And just because, you know, you got, you know, prescribed a medication doesn't mean suddenly everything's gonna get
Not a
fixed.
magic pill. That does not exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's like mental health doesn't stop at I feel happy, or it doesn't stop at, oh, I can suddenly concentrate on work, or it doesn't stop as I'm not feeling anxious anymore. That's when actually you have to be like, all right, this is how I want to stay, and uh, and I have to continue this, and you have to talk to like, even if you try to, if you don't think anything's going wrong with you, and you're going into your therapist appointment, start talking. Something's gonna come up, and you know
Yeah.
what, and that's how you continue mental health, because like we got to this point because we did not pay attention or ask ourselves any questions of what was going on here. So now that you are I say woke is not the word that applies here, but yeah, now that
Yeah,
you are
more
awake,
aware. Yeah,
like you are aware, it's like, all right, let's make sure this doesn't happen again. And yeah, like it's beautiful, man.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Gabe, I just want to acknowledge you. I thank you. Hopefully, I can. This is the first of several people. As I said, anybody else that wants to talk about their journey. Obviously, Grateful Living started because I lost a friend to suicide, and I think part of the reason, unfortunately, that we lost him was because he struggled on his own, and um, mental health was seen as you're crazy and things of that nature. So, Gabe, I thank you tremendously for sharing your story, for being open about it, and possibly, helping someone else out there that deals with ADHD, anxiety, or depression. If someone wants to contact you, is that possible?
Yeah, they can just send me an email, gabrielJorama@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to be in touch.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Gabe, for being on.
Thanks, Arnav. Pleasure to be with
Appreciate
you.
it.